The boy had no name that anyone remembered. Not in the village where he was left. Not in the distant whispers of the plains. People simply called him the orphan. His parents had been lost to sickness years ago, and since then he had grown up on scraps of kindness and long nights of silence. He was thin, barefoot most days, but his eyes carried a strange light, a mixture of longing and quiet strength. On that golden evening, while the sun painted the fields in fire, he wandered further than usual, his curiosity tugging him along paths no one else dared to walk. The prairie stretched endlessly, tall grasses swaying like waves in a restless sea, and just beyond, a shadow moved, a figure small, fragile, and out of place. It was a girl, no older than he was, dressed in buckskin torn at the edges, her braids messy from wind and struggle. The boy stepped closer, cautious but kind. "Are you lost?" he asked, his voice carrying more compassion than strength. She turned, startled, clutching a piece of broken necklace in her hand. Tears had dried on her cheeks, but her trembling gave her away. She whispered in broken words, fragments of English mixed with her own language. "Family. Gone, must find them." The boy didn't understand everything, but he understood loneliness. Without hesitation, he offered his hand. She hesitated only for a breath, then placed her small hand in his. The boy led her carefully through hidden paths, teaching her where to step to avoid rattlesnakes, sharing what little food he carried in his pouch. The girl spoke of warriors, of her people, of how she had been separated when raiders struck their camp. Her words came broken, but her spirit was fierce. She refused to be just a lost child. She wanted to return, to fight for the family that still lived. That night they rested beneath an oak tree, stars spilling across the black sky like shards of hope. It made him ache, for he had no songs left from his own bloodline. He promised her quietly, "We'll find them. Tomorrow, we'll find them." She looked at him then, really looked, as though this nameless orphan was a warrior himself. And for the first time in years, the boy felt he belonged. The wind carried strange sounds as they drifted into sleep, distant drums, the soft crackle of fire from far-off camps. He did not know then that his choice to help this girl would change everything. By dawn, they would step into a story larger than either of them, a story of tribes and warriors, of loyalty and courage. But in that moment, it was only a boy and a girl under the stars, clinging to hope like a fragile flame in the dark. Morning broke with a pale glow that stretched across the horizon, spilling gold over the tall grasses. The boy woke first, chilled from the night air, and for a moment he forgot where he was. Then he saw her, the girl curled up beside him, clutching that broken necklace as if it were the only thread holding her to the world. She stirred at the sound of birdsong, her eyes opening to the light with a sudden urgency. "We must go," she whispered, pointing toward the distant hills. The boy nodded. They walked through endless fields, their small figures swallowed by the vastness of the prairie. The girl spoke more as the hours passed, her words piecing together a picture of her tribe, how the raiders had attacked, how smoke had filled the sky, how in the chaos she had been pulled away from her mother's hand. She did not cry as she spoke. Her voice was steady, almost fierce, as though she carried the strength of all her people inside her. The boy listened, saying little, but each word carved into him like stone. He had never known what it was to belong to something greater than himself. Yet through her story, he began to feel the weight of it. By midday they found signs, tracks pressed into the earth, broken reeds, the faint smell of a fire long extinguished. The girl dropped to her knees, touching the ground with reverence. "My people," she breathed. The boy looked around nervously. Every sound seemed sharper now, the rustle of the grass, the cry of a hawk, the shifting wind. They followed the trail, hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. As dusk painted the sky in crimson, they came upon a ridge. From its crest, the girl froze, her breath catching. Down below, smoke curled from the remains of a camp. She ran forward, but the boy grabbed her hand, holding her back. "Wait," he urged, sensing danger. Together they approached cautiously, stepping through ashes and scattered belongings. The camp was empty, but it pulsed with memory, every burned post and broken spear telling a story. The girl sank to her knees, tears welling for the first time since they met. The boy knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We'll keep searching," he said softly. His voice carried more than comfort, it carried determination, something larger than himself. And though the night pressed around them, heavy and uncertain, neither child turned back. Somewhere beyond the dark horizon, family and fate awaited. The boy did not yet know that his promise would summon 30 warriors to his door, but destiny was already moving toward him, step by step. Night wrapped around them like a heavy cloak. The stars scattered across the sky like 1,000 watching eyes. The ruined camp whispered with silence, every broken pole and scattered bead carrying the weight of stories that had ended too soon. The girl sat close to the fire pit's cold ashes, her fingers digging into the earth as though she could pull her family back through sheer will. The boy stayed beside her, unsure of how to comfort, yet unwilling to leave her alone in grief. He had lived with emptiness his whole life, but hers was fresh, raw, and bleeding. Suddenly, a sound split the stillness, the faint crack of a twig. The boy stiffened, pulling the girl gently behind him, his small frame trembling but determined. From the shadows, eyes glowed, then shapes emerged. Not raiders, not enemies, but figures wrapped in buckskin, their steps sure and silent. The girl gasped, her lips forming a name before her voice broke. She recognized them, not her family, but scouts of her tribe. Their leader, tall with braids glistening in the starlight, studied the children carefully. His hand rested on his spear, yet his gaze softened when he saw the necklace clutched in the girl's hand. A flurry of words in their native tongue passed between them. The boy stood confused, heart pounding, until at last the girl turned to him, her face alight with hope. "They know my family," she whispered. "They will take me to them." Relief crashed through the boy, though mingled with a strange ache. He had found her safety, but what awaited him once she left? The scouts motioned for them to follow. They walked through the night, the grass brushing their legs, the moon guiding their steps. As dawn crept over the land, they reached a valley where smoke rose gently from a new camp. Voices carried on the wine, children laughing, women singing, warriors sharpening spears. The girl's face lit with joy, and before the boy could speak, she darted forward, calling out. From the circle of tents, people rushed to meet her, arms outstretched, tears streaming. The boy stood at a distance, his chest tight, watching reunion bloom before him like sunlight breaking the clouds. He had done what he promised. He had brought her home, yet he did not know that in giving her back her family, he had earned something greater than blood ties. For in the shadows of that valley, warriors watched him with quiet respect, and before another sunrise, they would gather 30 strong at the door of the boy who had once been alone. The boy lingered at the edge of the camp, watching from the shadows as the girl was swallowed in her family's embrace. Her mother clutched her tightly, her father's proud eyes glistened with tears, and siblings pressed close, their voices tumbling over one another in joy and relief. It was a sight the boy had not seen in years, a family whole, unbroken. His heart swelled with happiness for her, yet in that happiness lay a hollow ache. He turned quietly, planning to slip away unnoticed, to return to the lonely path he had always known. Without a word, the warrior gestured for him to follow. Confused, the boy allowed himself to be led to the center of the camp, where elders sat near a small fire. The girl was there too, her eyes shining as she pointed toward him, speaking quickly in her language. Though the boy could not understand, he felt the weight of her words. She was telling them what he had done, how he had found her, how he had kept his promise. The elders listened, their faces solemn yet softened by respect. One of them, his hair silver as moonlight, rose to his feet and stepped closer to the boy. In halting English he said, "You, brave heart, you bring her home." The boy flushed, looking down at his worn clothes, his bare feet, his trembling hands. Brave? He had never thought of himself as such. He had only done what felt right. Yet the way the people looked at him, as though he were more than just an orphan, stirred something deep inside. That night, they gave him food more than he had eaten in weeks and a place by the fire. The girl never left his side, her laughter lighter now, her eyes bright with gratitude. He listened to the songs of the tribe, the drumbeats that echoed through the valley, the chants that rose to the stars. For the first time, the boy felt a sense of belonging, as though he had stepped into a story greater than himself. He thought the journey was over. He thought tomorrow he would return to his lonely cabin, carrying only memories. But destiny had already chosen otherwise, for while he slept, warriors gathered in council, speaking of honor and debt, of how a child with no family had shown the courage of a warrior. They did not leave him at the cabin door. They stood guard before it, spears planted firmly in the earth, eyes sharp with loyalty. The morning sun broke through the mist, and the boy rubbed his eyes in disbelief. 30 warriors stood before his cabin, silent and unyielding, their spears planted firmly in the ground. The rising light glinted off polished stone tips, and their shadows stretched long across the earth like guardians born of legend. The boy had lived most of his life in silence, in emptiness, yet now the very air seemed alive with power. He stepped hesitantly to the doorway, bare feet brushing against the rough wooden floor, his heart pounding with questions he could not form into words. The girl was there beside him, smiling with pride. She explained softly, "They came for you. You helped me when no one else did. Now they will help you." The boy blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. These warriors, men of strength and honor, had chosen to protect him. He looked at their stern faces, painted with colors of earth and fire, and felt a strange mix of awe and fear. He had never been important to anyone, yet here they stood, as if his life carried meaning worth defending. One of the warriors, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward. His voice was low, steady, and carried the weight of command. In broken English he said, "You saved one of ours. Now we stand with you." For years he had carried the heavy cloak of loneliness, but in that single moment it slipped away. He did not know why fate had chosen him, but he knew this: he would not waste the gift. The day passed differently than any he had known. Warriors hunted and brought food to his table. Others repaired the broken roof of his cabin, their hands skilled and patient. The boy watched in silence, still overwhelmed. Children from the tribe visited, curious and playful, and for the first time in his life, laughter filled the air around him. Yet beneath the joy, a question grew in his mind. Why would warriors, fierce and proud, commit themselves to guarding a boy with no family, no land, no name? He felt the answer was not just gratitude, it was something larger, something deeper. The land itself seemed to whisper of trials yet to come, of storms waiting beyond the horizon. As dusk settled and the warriors lit fires around his cabin, the boy felt it for the first time: not just belonging, but destiny.